Hey, what's up, guys? It's Blake here with Boost Portfolio. In this video, we are going to discuss, is now a good time to buy Bitcoin? We're going to talk about some different time frames, and we're also going to cover just a little bit of the stock market and how that plays a role in all of this. Okay, now, before we get started, guys, I'm not a financial advisor. None of this is financial advice. Okay, so what are we looking at on Bitcoin? Well, I want to start with, you guys need to have a plan. Okay, I had a family member call me today and was kind of seeking advice. Felt a lot of pain on the downside, and I'm not going to tell you what I advised him on because he's my brother and I know his situation. I don't know any of you guys, but I want to make it clear that we are coming to a point where you need to have a plan. Okay, if you're not comfortable sitting through this entire bear market because we don't know when it's going to end, you need to have a plan for that. You need to have a strategy of how you're going to deal with that. Also, if the market starts to turn and we start to see a lot of bullish activity and you happen to sell now or even lower, you're going to feel FOMO like you've never felt before, and you're going to be kicking yourself for selling. Okay, so there's two sides of the coin here. You could either hold on and maybe it turns, maybe it doesn't. And if it starts to drop, you're really going to feel some pain, and who knows how that's going to affect everybody else. But also there's the FOMO side of it as well. So make sure you guys have a plan, all right? Me, myself, I am a trend follower, and I've been pretty much out of this entire bearish down cycle. We were able to catch a couple of these rallies in here. We tried again here, got stopped out, had a small loss. But we are coming to an area where it looks like this 5,800 level looks like it's an area of interest on Bitcoin. It has been a price level that's been support and resistance before. So that 5,800 level is a key level that I'm watching. If we start to break below this 6,450, we'll call it, then that likely puts that 5,800 in play. And if we don't hold that 5,800, we are in full-on bearish mode. So I don't know what to tell you guys. I that's just the way that I see it. Now, if we start to rally, we could potentially come higher, but what I would need to see first is some green candles closing above this moving average, this white line. We had one signal here. If you guys remember, I said we have a signal, okay? That was that signal. That's why we went ahead and took just a very small position, and we're going to talk more about risk management and scaling into positions later on, but not today. So we took a very small position here, and we were happy to get out at a small loss, because who knows how low this is going to go. And plus we had a very, very small, less than 2% of our capital at risk here. So a very small capital at risk. So managing risk is very, very important and a key aspect to trading and investing. So one of the things that I want to show you is looking at different time frames and identifying the trend in that time frame. So we're going to start kind of close in on a 1 hour time frame. So each one of these candles represents 1 hour of trading. And you can see that one of the indicators that I like to use just to help me try to identify the immediate trend. Okay, this is by no means a signal in itself or a strategy in itself, but the super trend indicator. Okay, so that's one of my favorites just to kind of get a better idea of the general trend. It takes into account average true range and volatility in candles. That's why I like it, because it takes into account normal volatility. And so you can see once we break below this green line, that starts us in a downtrend. So this is on a 1 hour time frame. Okay, so you would have had a signal at 8,600, and we could have ridden this downtrend all the way potentially until you got this get out signal down at 6,800. So nice little trade if you were short Bitcoin. So you can see we've been in this downtrend, and now we're in another downtrend. I will note that the MACD is turning up, so there is a slight bullish divergence with price and MACD. You can see price is kind of bottoming here, and MACD generally is trending higher. Okay, so slight bullish divergence on the 1 hour chart, but we are in a downtrend. 4 hour time frame. Okay, so each one of these candles represents 1 day of trading activity. Now you can see we are again in a downtrend. Okay, red line above, still in a downtrend. MACD is moving lower, okay? But we also have bullish divergence on the 4 hour time frame, with the MACD generally trending higher, okay? And price was moving lower as MACD trends higher. So that's bullish divergence. that kind of could potentially set us up for a bull rally over the next few days, provided that we can clear some key resistance levels. And the first one is really going to be right around that 73 mark, okay? So keep an eye on that 73 area. That will potentially be my first signal to try to scale back in to Bitcoin, okay? Now, once again, it's all about managing risk and staying alive for the long game. So now we're pulled up here on a daily time frame. Now, each one of these candles represents 1 day of trading activity. And you can see, well, we're still in this downtrend, okay? Red line above, okay? We've been in a downtrend ever since we broke roughly 13,000, okay? And you can make an argument for we started the downtrend way back here, which is where I would make the argument. But keeping things simple on this super trend indicator, okay, downtrend, gotcha. MACD is still moving lower, but we are starting to flatten out, and the volume is also starting to tail off. So we need to keep a close eye on the volume here on the daily time frame. Now, once again, I said I will be looking to see some green candles close above this whole moving average, and that's a 20-period whole moving average. And I also have this pulled up on the Heikin Ashi candlestick charting pattern. So Heikin Ashi is one of my favorite candlesticks that I like to look at because it takes an average of the previous trading days to actually formulate the candle. Now, if we go through a weekly time frame, now you can see on the weekly time frame, yes, I'm going to make the case that we're in a downtrend here, okay, but we still haven't broken below this signal level on the weekly time frame, which would be roughly 64.89, okay? So if we start closing below 64.50, which nicely coincides with that number that I mentioned earlier on the daily time frame, that would likely signal more downside and put this 5,800 area in play. And if we don't hold that, if we happen to trade that way, then we're going to see some lower prices. I mean, realistically, we're going to see lower prices if we start making closes below that 5,800. Now, I know I sound extremely bearish right now, and that's because we're in a bearish downtrend. But keep in mind that I will get back into this market, and that's always been my intention to get back into this market, but I'm playing my game. You have to understand that trading is a game, just like basketball, football, baseball, but there's no referees. Nobody's telling you how you have to play the game. Okay, there's this market that exists out there, and there's different players that like to play the game their way. There's day traders, swing traders, there's buy the dippers, there's sell the rippers. That's all games that are being played on the market. Now, my game, I know it works for me. I've been trading for the past 7 years, profitable for the past 5, and my game works for me. And right now, my game is preserving capital and waiting for a strong signal to get back into this market and riding the uptrend. Okay, that's really where the money is made, is in uptrends. Now, if you want to get really aggressive and potentially lose money, more money than you would just regularly being in the market, you could try to short Bitcoin. But I don't advise that at all, and that's definitely not something that I would do, certainly not at this point and at these levels. But like I said, I will be looking to get back into this market, and if we can get some volume come in and some upward momentum, that will be a signal for me to go ahead and take a small position in Bitcoin once again. Now, that brings me to my next point about managing risk. Okay, so the key to the game, if I had somebody tell me 7 years ago when I first started trading, if they were to give me advice, I would hope that they would tell me, matter of fact, if I was to give investing advice to my younger self, the first thing that I would tell him, and I would tell my younger self, is that the name of the game isn't necessarily to make money. That is one of the objectives, but the name of the game is to stay alive. Make sure that you're able to play, okay? Now, it's very easy to blow up an account, and I've blown up accounts, okay? Everybody goes through their growing pains. But the name of the game is preservation of capital. And when the opportunity presents itself, you make sure that you have that capital invested in riding the bull trend. And that's how I've been able to not only survive, but also make money in this market. But the key part is surviving and managing risk. So that brings me to a good point of scaling into and scaling out of positions. Okay, I will never make one purchase and be done with it. And okay, I went all in at this price and that's it. Okay, that's very risky. And the reason that it's very risky is if you put 100% of your capital at risk on your initial entry, if that entry doesn't work out for you and it drops 20%, well, you just lost 20% of your entire portfolio value. Okay, that's huge. Now, if I see a signal and I like the signal and I go ahead and put a small amount of my capital at risk and it goes against me 20%, well, it doesn't matter. Okay, I still have the majority of my capital. But if that trade starts to work for me and it's proving itself that, okay, I'm on the right side of this trade, that's when I start to scale into and add and put more into the position, because it's telling me that, hey, this position's working, you're on the right side of the trend. Keep putting it into this trend until this trend ends. Okay, and when the trend ends, that's when you get out. Now, that's really the way that I like to scale into a position, because it helps me minimize my downside risk by only putting a small portion of capital at risk with our initial entry and gradually scaling into the position as we get more confirmations that the trend is trending in the direction of the trade that we want it to go in. So that's one of the ways that I like to manage risk. Now on the downside, same thing goes, okay? As you guys follow in Telegram, you know that I've been scaling out for quite some time now. And I'm about 98% cash now, okay? So I'm on the sidelines. I'm sitting on the bench, got my hands underneath my butt, and I'm waiting for the coach to put me in, okay? So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're following Telegram, you'll receive the alerts of when I see this market turning and what coins I'm getting into. If you're not in Telegram, make sure you go ahead and get in there. I'll put the link below, and hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you tomorrow.